Welcome to The Big Break Show, a podcast where we discuss short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, life, mindset, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Rafa and Jesse Vasquez.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the quarter episode, numero 25 of The Big Break Show with my co-host, Mr. Jesse Vasquez. What is up, brother?
What's going on, man? 25. Can you believe this? When we just started off, we were at number 1, and here we are at 25. Yeah, bro, we're coming along. But
Dude, I know, it's crazy.
But you know what? 25 is a big number, and we got a guy that's on today, Hayden Bowles.
Yeah, who's not even 25 yet.
He's only 22, and this guy, I can tell you guys right now, he's crushing it in the real estate game. He's crushing it in the e-commerce game. He's a very high intuitive thinker, and started off when he was 13, literally in the stock market. So I'm excited for you guys to hear this because he just, and he's has a huge YouTube following too, which 200,000 or 300,000 followers on that end. He's got his own courses. This guy is like doing it all at such a young age. I mean, Rafa, when you and I were 22, man, we were just like, slamming beers at the pub. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, no joke. It's what really attracted me to him because he's such a forward thinker. He's like way ahead of his time and extremely intelligent. So one of those people that's really good to have around in your circle because he's going to help you get better, be better, and grow. So I'm excited. I'm excited to have him on here.
Yeah. After we just finished recording this right now, you guys, and literally the first thing that I said to Rafa was like, man, we need to step our game up because somebody so young is doing all these things, and it's just like it goes back to mindset and like where you are mentally with a lot of these things. And you guys are going to hear what he talks about and how his mindset is even really early on, at the age of 13. You guys will hear about all that stuff, and it's just crazy how everybody's so different at different parts in their lives.
Yeah, it's cool that he's been able to do so much at such a young age, and I'm excited to see where he goes in the next year. We're definitely going to bring him on in a couple of months down the line to see where he's gone because he just started the real estate journey side of things, and he's crushing it already. Crushing it. So I'm excited for you guys to listen to this. We love you all as always, and hopefully you enjoyed the show. Hayden, brother, what's up, man? Thanks for coming on the show. Really excited to have you here. Before we get started really quick, I'd like for you to tell all the listeners who you are, what you're about, what you do, and then we can go from there.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate you guys having me on. My name is Hayden Bowles. I operate mainly in the e-commerce space. Some of you may or may not know who I am from YouTube mostly. That's been a fun platform I've been building. So built one of the largest e-commerce and a little bit of personal finance and real estate on there, but one of the largest e-commerce YouTube channels over the last 4 or 5 years. Just been operating in that space for quite a while. Currently living between Puerto Rico and Arizona and been buying real estate for about 2 years now as well. So that's how we got connected, and here we are today.
Dude, okay, Hayden. All right, we got to break that down, dude, because there's a lot like e-commerce boss, like badass YouTube channel, real estate, like break it down. Give us, how did you get started in all the entire space from like the beginning to where you're at now?
Sure. So it really started back when I was 12, 13 years old, got into stock trading. That led to me looking at all the stuff online, right? I just met a lot of people through that. A couple of those people were building Instagram pages. So they wouldn't post stuff of themselves. They'd post like viral videos and like cool cars. And back then you could just get hundreds of thousands of followers if you knew how to kind of play the game, right? The right hashtags and stuff. So I started doing that, grew a couple pages, couple 100,000 followers on each. And what I didn't realize is brands started reaching out to me. I didn't expect that. And there was a lot of e-commerce companies. They'd say, hey man, we'll give you $50 if you can promote our product and put the link in your bio. It's like, okay, of course, right? Then I started learning how that marketing world works. And eventually I asked one of the companies, I was like, why are you paying me $100 every single week to promote this product? And he just told me straight up, he's like, well, every time I pay you $100, I'm making $2,000. I was like, just mind blowing.
Wow.
I mean, I'm 15 at the time. And, I was making maybe $1,000 a month from all these promotions, which was great to me, right? But I saw them crushing. I was like, okay, logistically speaking, I control the traffic, right? So why don't I just start my own e-commerce store? So that led me down about a year and a half path of figuring it out, getting it working. And man, I mean, it was pretty quick after it started working. It took about a year to build the skills. And then, it popped. I was always at like $1,000 to $3,000 a month. And then the income just exploded. Around that time, I had transitioned to online school. I had hired somebody to do that for me. Eventually that collapsed. She was overseas, had to go back to school. So I flunked every class, failed out of school. Parents said you can't live at home if you're not going to school. So when I was 17, I moved to LA. And around that time, I was starting the YouTube channel and starting to document that journey because I was about a year into it. So yeah, that was like the kickstart.
Dude.
Okay. You hired someone to do school for
Yeah,
you?
$60 a week is the best purchase I've ever made.
Dude, that's awesome. I know it's funny because like you never hear that. I've never heard anybody say, hey, I hired somebody to do school for me, right? What were you doing during that time? Like, what was your thing?
Yeah, so I mean, during that time, it was trying to get into e-commerce and then still running the Instagram pages, right? Which it didn't take a ton of work. But for me, the online school I was doing was relatively easy, right? I'd somehow convinced my parents to do online school for the last couple of years of high school, which miracle inside of itself. But anyways, I had hired somebody to do it. And what I realized, the 2 hours of school would take me 6 hours because I hated it, right? So I was like, I cannot sit here. It made me so upset. Like I just genuinely despised it with passion. So at the time when I'm only making $1,000, $2,000 a month, $60 a week, that's about $300 a month. I mean, it starts to add up, and so it was like a good chunk of the money I was making, but man, it freed up my entire time as well as my mental clarity or whatever you want to call it. So during that time, I just like went 110% into the business. And a couple months into that, I mean, it blew up. It went from, the e-commerce stores were losing money. I was losing all the money I was putting into, $20,000, $40,000, $50,000, and $60,000 just month after month. And it has just been consistent.
Man, I got a question for you. Hang on, Rafa. How the hell do you get into stocks at 13? I was like, did somebody teach you that? Like, I mean, like, there's so much stuff to unpack here. So let's try to like figure that out. Like, what got you rolling? Let's talk about stocks for a second at 13. Like, how do you go from that to e-commerce to like, how does that all come about?
Yeah, so it's an interesting sequence of events. The stocks probably came about because I'm sure I saw some online ad of some guy making a lot of money with stocks, and I recognize that money controls the decision. If you have the money, you get to decide where the vacation is or where you're going. And so I wanted that. I wanted to be able to make my own decisions. So I think that's where it really stemmed from. And then through pursuing stocks for many years, I had convinced my dad to open a custodial account so I could trade, put a couple thousand of my own money that I had made mowing lawns. And, just like it was trading, it's kind of like me playing poker. I'm not going to make a lot, but I'm probably not going to lose a lot. So I stayed about break even for a while and played the game, but I met a lot of people through that. And so it was those people that were growing Instagram pages that got me into that. And so it just, it kind of went from there. So,
man, like I can't even think about being 13 and having like mental awareness to think like that. Cause like, when I was 13, Rafa, I talked about this, like Pogs, like that's when I started skateboarding, dude. I was like, that's when I was all about skateboarding. I didn't even think about those other aspects in life. Like at 13, it sounded like you're like 13 going on 34, dude.
Dude, this is exactly why I wanted to have you on this show, because when I spoke to you, like your story blew me away, man. You're so young, but you have this mind of like, I don't know, a 40-year-old like great investor, because you're making all the right moves at such a young age, man. It's awesome. It's really rare to see. It's a very rare skill that people have, and you are like top notch, my friend. It's still like I kind of already knew a little bit from our conversations that we had, but just to hear some of the stuff that you're talking about now, I'm like, dude, how old are you again, Hayden? Can I ask that?
I'm 22 now.
Yeah, dude. I mean, wow, right? And you're what? You're getting into syndication now, buying these gigantic buildings. You've built out this gigantic e-commerce like empire, which, speaking of, actually, I'm curious about that for the listeners and people that don't know about this. Like, what is actual e-commerce? Are we talking like Amazon stores, or are you building out your own stuff? Like, what is it exactly? Can you break that down?
Sure. So I've never done anything on Amazon myself. I've never done eBay. What we do, we build our own websites, usually through Shopify. I've had a couple at one point that were custom hosted, just so we could get like more customizations in there inside the checkout page. But mostly Shopify stores. It started out with drop shipping. Nowadays we have inventory. I have two main brands. We do a couple $100,000 a month in sales. Sometimes it's more than that. I think I've told you there was points where it was $1 million a week, and there's been all sorts of problems and ups and downs during the business. But it's been a really fun time. We run all the ads on Facebook and TikTok, so it's relatively simple. There's a lot of moving parts, but the only thing that I do on a day-to-day basis, or really even month to month with e-commerce, is I run the ads. I don't like to build stores. I'm not going to manage support people, let alone reply to support tickets myself. I don't want to talk to suppliers. I don't like to do any of that. I just run the ads because that's the skill that I purposefully and intentionally became very good at starting when I was about 15 or 16. So I wanted to get really good at that. And now I was like, if I can do this one thing, I'll always be able to make money. Even if it's not for myself, I can walk into any company and say, I'll run your ads for free. Just give me a cut of what we make. So it was like building that skill.
Wow. Okay. Remember we talked about this NFT thing that I told you about?
Yep.
So we're actually setting up a Shopify store right now for merch for this specific company that we're starting now. I'm gonna have to pick your brain about that a little bit, because do you guys happen to take crypto at any of your stores by any chance? I know we're getting
No,
sidetracked here,
we
but I'm
don't.
curious now.
No, maybe we should. I haven't.
Okay.
We don't do that now. No.
Yeah, one of the things that we're doing is we're making it intentionally for people to be able to use those cryptocurrency tokens that we're involved in to be able to buy the merchandise, kind of to keep the market flowing a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was curious if you'd done that before to see how it looked or not. But okay, anyway, yeah, no, I appreciate that. Okay, so you end up doing all of the advertisements for, is it your own companies, or is it you're still only doing other companies? I think you said you were doing yours, right?
Yeah, it's mostly mine. There's a mix. Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of stores are these? Like what items are is it that you're doing?
Yeah. So from a public perspective, I'll never just like post the link to the site. I've done that once. The reason I don't share exactly what it is because there's no benefit, but there is downside. I've had people hack stuff, buy thousands of fake negative comments, report pages. Like you can do a lot, so I don't put it out there, but a lot of the stuff we sell, I'm not a big fan of clothing or like really crazy electronics because you get a lot of returns of sizing issues or issues with the electronics. So most of the stuff, we've sold jewelry and electric lighters and dog water bottles, a lot of stuff in the dog space, just random everyday products. Rarely is it like a really cool trinket that like is a trend. Like I like to enter a space for something I can sell for a long period of time. So one of the brands that I ran for the longest period, did about $10 million in sales, was an orthopedic brand. So the primary product there was an ankle brace. And then we also upsold the knee brace. It's like a very boring product. It's not something that's like really sexy. It's not cool. People are like, oh, like what's your company? I'm like, here, like this is what we do. And it was
knee braces, man.
But it worked.
Water bottles.
Yeah, water bottles. It's simple stuff, but you come at it with a unique angle and people need it. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah. You know what, dude? With e-commerce, like pre-COVID, I started watching YouTube videos. I probably watched your YouTube videos. I wanted to get into it. Like at one point in my life, any entrepreneur is like, I want to sell shit. Like that's just what happens. Like it doesn't matter what it is. So like, how did you go from just like, mowing lawns and stocks to just like getting into the e-commerce space? Like what is it? Was it the guys from the stock market that kind of pushed you into that? Or like, what did that transition look like? And how did you, get the ball rolling? And is it harder to make money doing that now? Because I've been like reading about people that, would buy into these shops that are already purchased and then they would flip them and turn them into something else. And can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the space is there's more moving parts to start it. It's more difficult to start. And I think that's actually a good thing for people inside the industry. It's just a higher barrier to entry. It's almost like you look at real estate. 10 years ago, there was no money to be found. Like it's much harder to raise money, but it was easy to find a deal. That's flip-flopped nowadays, right? Very hard to find a deal. The money is everywhere. So it's kind of like that where it's getting more difficult to get in. And then once you're in, it's sailing nice and easy, but there's definitely problems inside of there. And as for my entry point, there's a lot of little pieces to the story. When I was 16, I spent about 2 months traveling and I ended up with two guys that were doing door-to-door sales for solar. So I did door-to-door sales for a period of time and learned a lot through that. But those guys were crushing it doing, they lived up in Northern California in Pleasanton, right outside of San Francisco. And they were doing really well, 20, 30, 40 grand a month doing door-to-door sales. And so I stayed with them doing that, just living for free on their couch, like 16, hanging out. And they were trying to start online stuff for quite some time. And then they nailed it with e-commerce. Like within a couple months, they were doing $250,000 a month. They stopped doing door-to-door sales. They were buddy-buddy with Ty Lopez, hanging out at his house in Beverly Hills. So that's the first time I got to meet Ty, and like a bunch of stuff like that. So it was, just being around people who were like trying to get into that industry. So yeah, I saw a lot of it. I knew that it was a big opportunity, and I knew that it was something I could do from anywhere in the world. So, that side of it definitely enticed me.
That's freaking amazing, man.
Yeah, you said something that caught my attention about being around these people opened your eyes to other people, right? Kind of like how you first said you just met Ty. How has that been for you being in this space and being like in the YouTube space? Has that helped open a lot of doors being kind of like a public figure?
Yeah, the public figure side of it has opened almost every door, because I believe that if you're trying to build a relationship with someone, doesn't matter who it is, you just need a foot in the door. And from a door-to-door salesman perspective, you physically need a foot in the door. Like that's what they would train me to do is however you can in the conversation, get your foot inside their door. So then they can't close it. And so from a personal relationship perspective, let's say that we hadn't met and I wanted to reach out to you because I knew you were crushing it on Airbnb and maybe I wanted to try that. What's the best way I could provide value to you? Like, hey man, let's do a video together. Like, come on my YouTube channel or something like that. So there's a little bit of value, that I can offer there that most people wouldn't be able to. So it's like, you can't just DM Elon Musk and say, hey, you got time for a call? So it's like, it's like people ask me that 10 times a day and I don't respond. But if somebody approaches it right or is a referral from a friend, it's a totally different story. So you got to understand who you can reach and what your strategy is, because you really only have one shot. You get like one chance to kind of get your foot in the door. So
I was going to say, providing value to somebody like you that has 200, 300,000 followers on YouTube. Like if you message somebody like that and you provide value to them, they're probably going to take a listen to it. If they're going to read through it. I'm sure you have assistants to go through your messages and stuff like that, but something that provides value, they're going to be like, oh shit, maybe I should talk to Rafa. Like he's got some opportunity here for me. And I think that's important, man. That's like a lot of people will reach out. I'm sure Rafa, you have this too. Even I do, we'll have people reach out like, hey man, how do I get into short-term rentals? And how do I do this? Or can you teach me how to do midterm rentals? And it's like, we get those messages all the time. And I'm sure you get like hundreds of them, way more than Rafa and I ever do. But if somebody's not providing value to you in a way, you're not going to really listen to those things, even though, I still respond to people. But
yeah, I hate to say it's a dumb question, but if they're reaching out, hey man, how do I start Airbnbs? It shows that they've taken no action up front, because you can go learn all that stuff. It'd be a better question if they waited 9 months and said, hey man, I have 7 Airbnbs. We're crushing it. I'm looking to expand. I want to give you a percentage of the upside. If you can teach me your systems, how can we possibly work together? What can I do to help you?
Boom.
Totally different.
Get the whistle going right there, Rafa.
Yeah. 100%, Hayden. I love that you're bringing this stuff up, right? Number one, about the network thing, and we'll get to that in a second. But number two, this whole thing behind everybody wanting to learn from somebody. We're all out there to teach. We have this podcast to teach, to help people get started, right? I just had somebody send me a message the other day, say, hey, I'm brand new. I just heard your podcast. I love it. How do I get started? And I'm like, well, we have 15 other episodes that talks about how to get started. Have you heard any of those yet? Right. Or do you want me to waste an hour of my day to teach you the exact same thing you can already listen to on that one episode? You know what I mean? And people don't realize that. They just think, hey, because he's out there, his base is out there, he's willing to take the time out to teach me some more. And it's like, dude, put a little bit of effort behind what you're trying to do, right? I get messages all the time that people say, hey, I love it. I'm inspired. Can we get started? Yeah, we can. Have you gone back and done any research at all? Or did you just listen to one podcast, get this hype going, and now you want me to stop and take you by the hand and teach you everything that I've already provided for free in the past 20 hours of content? You know what I mean? So I love that you're bringing this stuff up, because it's true. Some people just don't realize that as well. And then I want to talk about the network thing, because we talk about that here all the time, right, Jesse? How important it is to have the right people around you. And even what you're saying about, providing value to get your foot in that door is massive. Everybody listening to this needs to understand that. Reach out to someone that you admire, that inspires you, that you aspire to be like, and reach out with some sort of value and get to be around that person's circle. Like, be in that circle, right? Don't get stuck in the same rut of everybody, the same 5 people you're always hanging out with, where all it is the weekend bars and the video games every day. And I say that because I was that person. I'm no longer that person, right? Every time you set a new goal, you got to figure out a way to get to that goal. And it's usually by changing your mindset and your state of mind around the people that you're going to be with. Like, had you ever, let me ask you this, Hayden. What was the one relationship that you made that boosted you from, regular 15-year-old Hayden to badass 22-year-old Hayden? Like, what was that one relationship off the top of your head that you said, thanks to this network of people, there's this one? Is there somebody that comes to mind like that?
Yeah, one of my good friends, Abdul, we used to grow Instagram pages together, and he crushes it inside the e-commerce space. And he is a couple of years older than me. When I moved to California, we were looking to live together, and we did it at some point. We went and traveled the world together. And he's always been like just not a father figure to me. He's a great friend, only a couple of years older, but just very deep wisdom. This guy pays extreme attention to detail, very deep strategy. And, friends with top bankers in Merrill Lynch and Goldman Sachs that make $50 million a year, like the top, and like just a very intentional person, and has been able to help me a lot just in like let's have a little strategy behind what we're doing. Let's be a little more mature with things. And, I'm an immature person at certain times. I like to have fun. I like to do dumb stuff, but I do like to pay attention to detail. I think you can learn anything. You got to take advantage of an opportunity. And, there's never really been one person that made the hugest difference inside my business originally, because inside the e-commerce space, it's very much so a solo industry. I could sit in the basement of my house with music blasting for 14 hours a day and talk to nobody. And that's exactly what I wanted. So then getting into real estate, totally different, 180 degree flip, So Tim, one very helpful person for me so far in real estate. Now I've already acquired properties, but to get to that next level, it's going to be massively helpful.
Yeah. Rafa, before we jump into, I know we're going to probably go into dude, you got all kinds of stuff going on right now, which is badass to watch somebody not only at your age doing this, but dude, you seem like you're older than you are. Seriously, just having a conversation with you.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And it's cool because most 22-year-olds don't have this presence that you have, which is awesome. Did your parents have this type of, did they instill this in you, or is this just something that you just kind of gathered on your own? This push, or this, wanting more, or to create a life of, being on your own. What was that? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I always saw my family work hard. I saw issues come up, and for me, I recognize that consistency is usually the winner. And so, for an example, both my parents in amazing shape. They could just run 40 miles straight. Just not physically bulky, but just perfect fitness, because for the last 30 years, they're in the gym 2 hours a day, every day, because they love it. And now that they're easing into retirement, yesterday I was on the phone with them. They're at 8,000 feet in elevation in some mountain going on a 50-mile bike ride. They're just, and they do it every day. And so I noticed that even when they didn't feel like it, even when they weren't in the mood. And so I just saw that consistency in their habits, and it's definitely helped me. I'm in the gym every day, 6 days a week. I like to do my thing. For me, it's all consistency. So there's definitely a lot of things I picked up on from them. I probably need to do a more deep subconscious dive to figure out a lot more specifics and unpack it. But no, they're fantastic people, and they stick to their word, just like how they always told me, if you're not going to school, you can't live at the house. That's not them being an asshole. It's their house. It's their rules. I respected that. So when I was no longer a student and flunked out of classes and said I wasn't going back, I had 2 weeks to leave. And so I left, So they held to that, where most parents probably wouldn't.
Yeah, my parents, I could still be living with my parents right now. I'm going to be 40 if I want to. I'm not even kidding, dude. So that's awesome, man. I think that, you talk about consistency. That is one of the most important parts of any entrepreneurial's life, or any entrepreneur's life, or just in general with whatever it is you're doing. You can't just do things once or twice. You have to put time and energy into what you're doing. And that consistency factor is such an important piece, especially in business, especially with fitness. And I think that we sometimes will get to that point where we're just I'll do this today and I'll do it tomorrow, and then I'll start it again next week. You can't do that with the business, and you can't do that with your health, and you can't do that with fitness. Just like a diet, you have to be so consistent with it. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost in that. And you said something that was important. The people that really get out there and crush shit is when they get up in the morning, they don't feel like doing shit, and they do it anyway, because that's what they know is going to bring results. And I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about right now. And watching your parents do something like that through health and through fitness has kind of changed your perspective. And I think that's one of the keys to success in a lot of ways, is really that consistency.
Yeah. Definitely. The way that I grew my YouTube channel, the only thing that I did was I just posted every single day for 650 days. It's not that complicated. It's not rocket science, but I just did it. There was days where I was very difficult. I was literally leaving a friend's house at 9 at night to film a 10-minute video in my car and edit it real quick and post it, because I had to do it. So it's the same thing in every facet of life. I just believe in consistency and just play it for the long haul. I've seen a lot of people, especially in this space with crypto and NFTs. I know multiple people that have made a quick 10, 15, $20 million like that in months.
Right.
But I truly worry about them in the long run, because I've seen their habits over the previous however many years. And it's just a lot of up and down, and there's not a real base or foundation built. And so, when they make a lot of money like that, and then they go blow a chunk of it on crazy cars, and there's just not really a strategy in play. So, for me, you just got to be intentional. Just slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. We're all creatures of habit.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm assuming you're making some pretty good coin now. So what are you doing with your money, as far as obviously you're getting into real estate, right? You're jumping in that avenue.
Yep. Real estate's always been something that's interested me from a young age. I always saw, for whatever reason, parking garages and storage units were always pretty cool. So one day I'd love to own a storage unit facility for sure. I know we met a few people in North Carolina at the house who were crushing it with that. So yeah, over the last couple of years, just slowly started picking up some properties, long-term rentals. I'm not doing wholesale. I'm not trying to flip anything. I do have one flip that's underway right now. It was just product of circumstance. It made sense to flip. I wouldn't have held it, so I'd rather flip it than not buy it. But yeah, just like learning every aspect of the game. It started with a single family house and then a duplex and then another single family house. And I bought all those within like 3 months. And then I just sat. I wanted to see the process, put good management in place, let them sit for almost a year. Then I bought a house for myself and I started like really seeing what was working and started learning it. And so then I just started buying more and more stuff. So, portfolio is worth a little over 5 million. It's nothing astonishing. There's people that are absolutely crushing it, looking to triple that this year and get another 100 doors. So just like consistency, building blocks, and now starting to do the syndication route where we can raise capital from accredited investors.
Dude, let me ask you, you're talking a lot about habits, consistency, building blocks, all of that stuff, right? Let's get into the little bit of mindset type of things here. What's your routine look like right now? Like your day, what do you do? Like, what do you have like a set time where you wake up? Like, do you have a morning routine? Do you just have like an afternoon thing that you like to do? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah, so a lot of people are with routines. I know some people who are against it. They think it makes you weak because you rely on that. For me, I get into a flow. I get into a rut, and I think it's a good thing. So I kind of have two because I live between Puerto Rico and Arizona. So I just drastically change it. I work a lot more when I'm in Puerto Rico just because there's not a lot else for me to do here. So I more so try to go to bed around the same time versus wake up at the same time. It's just something that works better for me. So the night before, I'm always writing down exactly what I'm doing the next day. Everything's scheduled out, very simple, so I can just jump right into it. Usually try to go to bed by 11 o'clock, not that crazy, wake up at 7 or 8. I wake up, I get right to work. I usually work for 2 hours, 3 hours, and then I eat breakfast, work for another 2 hours, go to the gym, come back, and then that's when I'll do more active work, like taking calls, anything like that, sales calls, talking to my team, group calls, anything of that nature. So also being on the East Coast versus most of my other stuff is on the West Coast. So the time difference there is 3 hours. It makes that easier as well. So I really get a good stretch of uninterrupted activity for the first 4 or 5 hours in the morning. And it works really well. So yeah, Puerto Rico is good. And then when I'm back in Arizona, it's a little bit less on the work side of things. Still try to wake up early, still going to the gym, still getting a solid 3 hours of work in. And most of the work nowadays is just like general growth, research, underwriting properties, making connections. One of the things now is I'm reaching out to a handful of people every single day who could be accredited investors for some of my deals. So you're just like building those things. It's not like a direct ROI from right today. It really only takes me a couple hours a week to manage what I have right now.
Yeah, money generating activities, right? That's what you're supposed to be focusing on as a business builder, as an owner, not in the business, but on the business, right? And that consists of you finding people, finding deals, finding cash to help grow it, right? So that's cool. I like that you do that. And I asked that because I know that you're in 2 different states, and I was wondering how it fluctuates, because it's very difficult. Like when I'm traveling, I don't work out at all. And so that just puts me in like this like really bad, like I want to say motion of things, because then when I get back, it takes me a couple of days to get back into that motion again, right? Or like I'll go out and we'll end up turning it into a vacation, and you come back and it's like takes a couple more days to get back into the motion of things again, right? Even though we're at a high level of work, it's still very difficult, and which is why I asked how your situation looked.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people don't think. It's like, hey, we're going to do a 3-day vacation to Las Vegas. Well, that vacation is not 3 days, right? Because you always have a prep day before. And then the time you're gone, and then recovering from travel or anything else, that's another day. So 3 is always 5. There's always a front and back end day, and sometimes 2 or 3 days to really get back into the flow and be at 100%. So, I travel a lot as well. Like I'll be in Colorado here over this weekend, and that's going to be 4 days. I guarantee you I'll only get to the gym once. But I'm going to be outside doing a lot of activities, biking and hiking and skydiving and whatever with a lot of friends. So I just try to make it a point to be active and do stuff. And I'm sure I'll get on my laptop for an hour a day, so I just try to, some sort of consistency, but I'm also working like hell right now to make sure everything is done. So like my days are full right now so that I don't have to work,
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. How many people do you have working for you right now on the e-commerce side?
On the e-commerce, 4 like proper team members, another couple people who assist.
Got you. And you guys probably aren't drop shipping stuff. Like you probably have like there's probably everything in like an Amazon warehouse or already just sitting there and whatever's ordered just sent off, right? You're not having to like literally go package stuff and send it off, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so we work with what's called the 3PL. So like there's third party logistics centers, and there's different manufacturers you can work with. Where instead of drop shipping, where you place the order on my site and then we pay for the product, we will order the product in advance. There is one store I have, one brand that I've been building that I'm hoping to sell by the end of this year, where it's kind of half and half because the product is customizable. So let's say it's a water bottle and you're going to put your name on it, right? We can't have that completed because you have to customize it. So we'll order the base product and have that sit in, and then they can quickly customize it so we get the orders out quicker. So there's only one brand that's drop shipped.
Got you. Okay, cool. Yeah, because I've always heard stuff about like you got to buy a store that's already put together where everything's already in Amazon. You don't have to do anything. You just manage all this stuff on the back end. They ship it out for you. But I know that a lot of people got shut down for like specific things getting into that. I was reading about, e-commerce is not what it was, a couple of years ago. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I've always valued controlling my process. On Amazon, it's great. You have all the trust of Amazon. You got faster shipping. That's super cool. But you don't own your customer data and you don't control the advertising as well. It's like I like to control my stuff. I own that whole process. So it's worth more money if I want to sell it. And in my opinion, there's a lot less risk.
How important is it having an email list of people? Like how actual value? Where's the value in that? Like actually having somebody's email.
Yeah, I'd say 15% of your revenue. Right now, we got like one of the stores doing $200,000 a month. We do 30,000 a month through email. So like it's something. It's important for sure.
Got you.
Yeah, it goes down to there's controlling that customer database. Same thing when I talk about why it's so important to build a direct website for bookings with our short-term rentals, right?
Yep.
I was having a conversation with one of these guys, and he asked me, a buddy of mine, he goes, why do you want to build your own direct website? I don't understand. Airbnb does all the marketing for you, and they take all the hard work out of things. And I'm like, yeah, they do, but you have nothing behind it. Airbnb is going to control the outcome of your business. If Airbnb decides to shut you down, you don't have a business anymore. If Airbnb decides to make changes to their terms of service and take away something that's important to you, then it's going to really, really hurt you, right? You can't market to these people. You can't go out and get direct bookings to these people. You can't make more money because they're taking a cut on top of it as well. I would imagine that Amazon's the same thing, right? They control everything. They're your basically marketing platform. But at the end of the day, you have nothing if it wasn't for Amazon. What if Amazon were to shut down, right?
It's just more risk.
Assuming that's the same thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tell you a quick story on where I learned the importance of that. As soon as I turned 18, me and my friend Abdul, who I mentioned there, and a couple other friends, we decided to go travel before we signed a lease in California. So I left my car with a friend, and we went off for what was originally going to be like a couple months. And so, we went to China and Bali, did a month in Thailand and Europe, Prague and Czech Republic and Croatia and all these spots, whatever. It was a great time. But the first day, so we did China for 3 days to meet with some of the suppliers at the time and hang out. I'd never seen China, and the 3-day visa was the easiest to get. So I didn't do any work in China, zero. And I logged in from the airport on my Facebook ads, right? And then as soon as we fly to Bali, land at the villa, I connect to the Wi-Fi and I go to log in again. They thought that I had gotten hacked because in their mind, you can't go from LA to China and then a couple of days later to Bali. Like, I guess they don't know that airplanes exist. So they're like, oh, he's been hacked, shut him down. I did all the verification. I submitted everything. I've never still gotten that account back. It's been 4.5 years. But the problem was at the time, I was just starting to get my YouTube going and getting everything set up. So the 2 e-commerce brands I had at the time, one was actually selling dog water bottles and other stuff. And I don't know what the other one was. That was my primary income. The first day of my 3 months of travel that we'd already booked in advance, I lost my ability to make money. So we were in Bali for 30 days, and that's about exactly how long it took me to get stuff up and running again. And dude, I was pissed. Like it was just a nightmare. So, I've been through that. It's not fun.
Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, you go from, it was kind of like when COVID hit for me, right? You go from a specific amount of projected revenue to zero and you have to start all over again. That's tough, man. Can we talk a little bit about how your ad systems work? Is that okay? I'm curious as to how you set that whole thing up.
Sure. Yeah. So I have much more experience and money spent on Facebook. TikTok is quickly replacing that. So purposefully, I'm trying to move more ad spend over to TikTok. There's better support. So that was kind of the issue with Facebook. You'd spend at one point hundreds of thousands of dollars a week and you can never get an email back. There's no live chat. There's no phone call. There's no support that could ever help you with any issue. And so that was the problem, because I think I had told you about this. End of 2019 in December, I shut down everything else I was doing except my e-commerce. So all like the little advertising stuff on the side, helping other people's things, all my personal brand, closed down the courses, stopped posting on YouTube, like everything was completely shut down because I was getting ready to scale the e-commerce company. My target was to do about 200 million a year. And so keep in mind, this is about 3 months before COVID hit. January, we started launching a lot of e-commerce brands. I had signed a lease for a house. I got an office. I brought in multiple partners. I started burning a couple thousand a day in negative run rate. By February, that was up to about $10,000 a day in negative run rate because we were launching so many e-commerce brands. By March, we had 26 new e-commerce brands that were launched. A bunch of those were making money. A few of those were doing 30, 40, 50,000 a day, making 5-6 grand profit. But a bunch of the other ones were losing money. Some were breaking even, so it's still negative. And around that time, I got completely screwed over by Facebook, and they shut down some of my stuff. And then I also got screwed over by another business partner, one of those guys there. And anyways, I lost about $1 million in a very short period of time, which hurt bad, right? But the worst part was I had stopped everything else that was bringing in consistent cash that would have made it a lot more manageable. So that was like my first lesson in having a little bit of diversity. And I went too wide. I did too many things when I should have focused more attention on less specific things. I should have done 5 instead of 26. So that was kind of my attempt to really scale it and go all in with e-commerce. And all of that was through Facebook. 100%. There was no other ad platform. And that was where I was really like, okay, I need to look somewhere else. Like, this is just ridiculous. And around that time, TikTok started coming out. TikTok was, getting trendy. And I was like, oh, forget this little platform. Then I'm like, wait a minute. Like, they just launched the advertising side of it. Let's look at it. So fast forward to today, spent about $2 million on there. I've also overseen about another $1.5 million through consulting. So like helping other people run their ads. Cool story. I actually helped a 19-year-old kid scale to $140,000 a day. Like the craziest thing.
Wow.
I was like, damn. And he was in the middle of buying his first rental property. I coached him through that. He made the down payment for his first, it was a townhouse. He made the 42 grand in one day. Wow.
That's awesome.
It was so cool. But yeah, TikTok's been a great platform. And yeah, I mean, we scale through a lot of ad creatives, which means we have a lot of different videos running so that nothing is getting, a lot of people rely on just 1 or 2 good videos. And the problem is if those stop working or become unoptimized, all your ads are going to go to shit very quickly. So we have a lot of diversity inside of each ad account. We also run backup ad accounts. So we have 2 or more per brand. So as we're scaling, there's other things that are diversified. So I used to do the same thing on Facebook. So if this one gets shut down, I still have another that's on a different LLC under different credit cards. You just have like some extra security. So there's been things like that, but dude, the advertising has been everything. So, we just increase budgets. We target very big, broad audiences, and we put a lot of ad creatives underneath them. Man,
that's crazy. Do you have like creative teams on the back end just creating all these ads, or is that kind of you? And sales and marketing are such an important piece. Like, I'm glad that you actually learned the door-to-door sales, because if you can do that shit, you can do any type of sales, like at all. If you can like physically get humiliated, because I'm sure you did, knocking on somebody's door. If you can learn how to deal with that and flip it around, knock on the next door with somebody literally humiliating you, telling you to get the hell out of here, slamming the door on your face, dude, you can do like any type of sales. So like, did that kind of mold you with the sales side of things?
Yeah. I mean, from a sales perspective, I am an excellent salesperson in person or on the phone. Like on the phone, I'm lethal, like absolutely lethal. And so I know that I can always fall back on that skill. But I mean, there's not a lot of like me selling that goes into the e-commerce stuff. It's digital. Nobody knows who I am. I'm just running the company.
It's marketing.
We're not taking, we're not taking phone calls. So it's more of marketing instead of sales. So it's kind of a different approach. So to answer your question about the ad creatives, the videos that we're making, I don't do them myself. I have before. On TikTok, it's easier because you can actually go on TikTok and like edit it there and film your product. But we have 2 people that do that. So there's like 2 separate companies. They're not in-house. At one point I had it in-house. It didn't make much sense. But 2 separate companies, they have like totally different styles. So you get that variation. And we spend anywhere from like $3,000 to $10,000 a month just getting new videos. So it's like a constant cycle of new videos. They can bring in actors. Like, let's say you want to sell, beard oil. They can bring in a guy with a huge beard or 10 of them. Like they can do anything. You need a dog, you need a cat, you need a bird, like whatever it is, they can do it. So, it makes it easier.
That's awesome. Last question. What do you think is more important, sales or marketing?
Sales will pay the bills right now. Marketing is how you tell a story long term. So I think they're equally important. It just depends on what your goal is.
Got you. Yeah, I think
That's an awesome answer.
yeah, I think marketing is more important now. You get like one or two kick-ass sales guys like on the phone or something like that, just like you mentioned. But you got to have a funnel, and that's how marketing is going to bring you that funnel. And then you just have the sales guys on the back end closing the deals. But it's different in your business. It's not like that. So that's awesome. I always wanted to ask some of those e-commerce guys or people that do really well on the marketing side, what's more important, sales or marketing? You answered it for me right there, man.
Hayden, as far as your ad and your marketing budget, what's the type of return you see on something like that? Like, because you're talking like some of these numbers, you're like, wow, you're blowing through $1 million in what, a couple months? I don't know. Like, what's the return look like? Like, what's the actual return on something like that? Return on investment, I guess.
Yeah, so the most common metric you'll see inside the advertising world is called ROAS. That's return on ad spend. So it's kind of your ROI of advertising. So, for us, we're seeing an average of a 2 to a 3. So for every 100 grand I spend, I'm going to make back 250, maybe 300. That's like the average. Now, there's outliers. There's ones that are doing 400. There's others that are 160, and it's still profitable. So it all depends on what your cost to fulfill the product is. Sometimes that margin is larger or smaller. It just depends on what you're selling. And it just depends also on how good you are at the marketing. So that's where building a brand, having a social media following, having a really good email list, those people you can reach and sell to, and it doesn't cost you new money to do that. So like I pay an email marketing guy $2,000 a month per brand, and they send out 3 emails and 2 text messages every single week. They've built an automatic sequence. So like we can do that long term, and it does just fine. You can hear all these private jets taking off behind me. But yeah, and so it's just something we've done where like building that long-term value there, it actually helps dilute that and get your profit margin up a little bit. So, the most average we're seeing is like a 2.2 to a 2.5 ROAS. So it's pretty consistent. Spend 100 grand, make 250.
Got it. And as far as your, like, obviously your very successful YouTube channel, does that help you, or do you like, okay, I guess my question is, do you use that as advertising for specific things as well? Or is that just something that's bringing different type of customers to your, how does that help you, and what perspective with your entire e-commerce business?
Yeah, so I didn't realize this at the time. It actually did help me with my e-commerce brands because I get to see a lot of things. I get to like people reach out like, hey, can I pay you for a consulting call? So that was an avenue of revenue at one point. I don't do a ton of that because it takes my time, but I get to see like hundreds of people's ad accounts. I get to see what they're selling, how they're running their ads, and like I can make modifications. So it's helped me. Also teaching it helps you learn it even better. I didn't realize that. There's subjects I thought I knew, but like the more you get into it and you teach people, it helps you learn. But from an e-commerce perspective, I've also bought or taken equity in multiple e-commerce businesses because of my YouTube channel. So they'll come to me, hey, we went through a couple of courses. We kind of figured out how to do 50,000 a month. We're making 12,000 profit. I'm 22. Me and my buddy are running this. We don't really know what we're doing. Like, how do we get inventory? What's the right payment process, or how do we scale? So I'm like, okay, I won't charge you anything up front. Give me half the upside. Let's go. And then I just, 10x it in 3 months. And then either we sell it or we keep doing it. So yeah, it's definitely opened a lot of doors. And then, I've had a course as well. And the course is, only a couple $100. I do that to teach those basic advertising strategies. So for all the people asking the very basic entry level questions, like most of that's answered on my YouTube. If you actually want to get started, you go through the course for a couple $100. That's designed to get you to the point where you're doing a consistent sales volume. And at that point, then your options open up. Do you want to do consulting with me or somebody else who actually knows what they're doing? Like, there's a lot of options. The problem is most e-commerce businesses are so different. Every brand is different. So a course doesn't exactly fit the mold when you're trying to scale to like 7 figures, or 8 figures. It totally can, because the ad strategies are applicable, but like the strategies and the branding is a little bit different for each brand.
Got it. Yeah. One of the things in short-term rentals for me was I thought I was an expert at it for a long time until I started teaching it and talking to people and helping people get started with it. It opened up my eyes to so many different ways that people are operating and doing things, to where I was like, I can actually apply this and make it better. And, I can actually learn that and teach someone else how to do it better. Right. So you always become better when you're teaching something. I like that you brought that up as well. That's cool, man. Yeah. And I brought it up because I just, like I told you before this call, I just recorded I didn't just record, I just got my first YouTube video back, which is going to go live this week. So I'm excited about it. But I was just curious as to how that could affect things. You know what I mean? Because I do plan on having a coaching course now. Jesse's been trying to get me to do one for years, and I'm always turning it down. And I finally said, all right, I'm going to have a course so I can teach people how to get started in this stuff as well. So I'm going to start recording that as it goes. Do you record all your own courses, or do you have someone like behind you that does it, sets it all up for you? Like, how does that look for you in terms of your coaching and your teaching?
Yeah, so like the only real teaching I do besides the one-off couple people I do consulting with for a couple hours every month is just the courses. You buy a course, you go in there, there's 50 videos or whatever, and it's just section by section, building the store, finding a product, or running the ads, whatever the course is. I made a couple of them. You'll go through that, and it's exactly what you see right now. It's like me sitting there. There's a camera in front of me. There's lighting, and for most of it, I'm screen recording because I have to go through stuff on my computer. So I'm showing you like my e-commerce ad accounts, like what I'm doing. Like you get to see me run ads live. So there was one video that somebody said, "Hey man, your audio isn't working," and I was like, "No, I was just sitting there for 20 minutes quietly while I'm focused on my ads, and you're watching." Like, so it's like I try to implement a little bit of like reality into it. Like, hey, here's what I would do in this situation. So it's not like high production. I don't need anything crazy. Like, it's just give me a camera, I guess half decent lighting, doesn't really matter. I'm a little box in the corner for like 95% of the course,
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's how my training videos are too. I record
that's the
everything.
best because it's the most value. You don't need to focus on the production. Don't think about it. Like if I want to add a video to a course, like I always have a bonus section. So when people ask questions and I realize maybe I didn't cover it that well, cool. I'll just throw up a 20-minute video. There's no editing. There's no nothing. It's real simple. It doesn't need to be production quality. And maybe I'm totally wrong. I'm not the best in this space, but that's how I've done it. And it's worked.
Yeah, if it works, it works.
Is that a good stream of income for you? Like that you're at your course, does that bring you pretty decent income per month?
Right now, the course is probably like $100,000 a year. So it's not as primary as other people might think. Number one, that's because I don't promote it. I don't charge a lot for it. I launch usually a new course every year on like TikTok ads. We actually have a course dropping next Wednesday, first course in over a year. So like just on TikTok, and that'll probably be $500 to $700. This looks like pretty simple. So like that'll do better. And if I was to like pitch it and promote it and be like that guy, but I'm not that guy. And I didn't care that much about being that guy. So, I mean, trust me, there's been periods where the course is doing really well. Like back in the day, e-commerce was getting many more views and there was much more people getting into the space. So yeah, courses were $30,000, $40,000 a month for sure. But it's never been year over year, like the primary, like it's never been the biggest thing. And people on social media like to troll me and say he only makes his money off courses, and it's like, he's making 90% of his money there. It's like, dude, like it covers my personal expenses like on the dot. Like that's what it covers. It's like it's a third of the payroll.
But you're also teaching people how to do stuff, like literally how you were able to scale your company. Like if somebody they're going to spend money to go into your stuff, like they're learning how to do it. Plus, they could probably watch this shit for free on YouTube, literally if they wanted to apply it. But it's a different kind of kind of setup. But it's also passive for you because you already recorded it. It's already there. And that's what I was trying to tell Rafa. Like you're helping people, but then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Like it's just somebody comes in, they do what they got to do, and that's going to pay for your life. And then you're able to do a new course the next year, and you keep updating, you keep upgrading, stay consistent. But at least it's bringing you revenue that's going to help you focus your time and energy and other stuff. And you're able to kind of cover all those stones. But that's awesome, man. So I mean, you're doing so much. So I want to kind of, Rafa, are you cool now to segment into the real estate part of this? Because I want to know how you guys met, what you guys were doing. Let's jump into that.
And I want to just say this one thing real quick too that builds off the course.
Yeah.
For me now, since the course isn't the largest thing, and it's passive, so it kind of makes sense numbers wise because it's like a couple weeks of filming and putting it all together. It's just like recording what I'm doing. The course for me is like step one because I then get a lot of people out of that. It's a small percentage because a lot of people don't do it, but let's say 1,000 people go through it and 40 of them do really well. And half those people reach out to me wanting to scale, and I can find the right companies and take equity in them and add them into my portfolio, help them. And like my goal, which I told you about, is to build a portfolio of e-commerce companies and sell them at once. I have multiple brokers that I've connected with. So there's like a bigger picture play there that'll make me a lot more than $100,000 a year from a course. So like, it's kind of like just helping people get started so I can find the right people.
It's a stepping stone. Yeah.
Dude, Hayden, like man, I'm so happy you came on this because every time I talk to you, like I was talking to you most of the entire time at this whole week summit that we were at, because I was just like, dude, this guy, like he's got it going on, right? You seem to have everything so well planned, bro. No joke. Like you have a plan for literally everything that you're doing. I guess it transitions perfectly, Jesse, into this whole real estate thing, which how we met. Jesse, so we met at the, it was the Legacy Summit or no, it was, I forgot what they called
Tim's Vacation House.
Yeah, we met at Tim's Vacation House it was a mastermind. It was a mastermind. That's what it was. So Tim Bratz, he does legacy wealth, and we're part of his mastermind together. And man, am I glad I went to that, because just no joke, just meeting you was like, remember how we talked about the value behind what you get from these things? Like there's no actual, like, the amount you pay to be there, you can't really justify because there's no object coming back to you, but it's based on the return over time. And just like the fact that I got to meet you, we had Alex Cazada on here a couple weeks ago with us as well. We're talking about doing a deal together already, right? Me and you have talked about doing a deal together. So it's just that return, like there's no way to justify it, but man, is it worth it, right? Because you never know who you're going to run into. You never know what's going to come out of it. You never know what's going to take you. So
it's crazy because like if a few of my people watch this and then end up buying a training course that you launched because they want to do Airbnb because they saw how I do real, like boom, there you go. But it's not a direct ROI, and I think that's where like mentally it's a little more difficult to make that jump.
Yeah, for sure. Because some of these things they're not cheap, right? For some people, it's a big investment to make, and you're like, is it worth it? And it's kind of like for you with like the ad revenue thing, right? You're dropping thousands a day. Is it worth it? And you're like, well, there's an actual ROI behind that. But with these things, there isn't. It's like, what might come out of it? So, yeah, okay. What's your plan, dude? Let's transition to this, because now let's talk about real estate. We got about 10 minutes left here. So what's your actual ultimate goal in terms of like real estate, put in e-commerce? We already know what you're going to do with e-commerce, which is package it and sell it at some point, right? And build relationships with it. But what's your ultimate goal with real estate long-term? Because real estate, we all know, is a long-term game.
Yeah, I've always taken the long-term approach. Like I mentioned, not a big wholesaler or flipper. It's long-term. I have my active stuff already. So for me, I'd really like to scale, if I'm using outside money, which is the plan right now, to 10,000 doors in 10 years. I don't think that's astronomical. We've seen people do it left and right. Tim got halfway there in half that time. So theoretically, exponential growth curve, he'll get to 10,000 doors very quickly. So it's like I've seen it done. And for me, I really, really like the multifamily side of things. People need a place to live. I understand the markets I'm buying in. I'm a numbers guy from the advertising. So it's very easy for me to see if a deal is going to work or not at a glance. And then you can dive deeper, but like I'll know within 5 minutes of looking at something if I can buy it or not. So it's really quick for me to do that. And my goal long-term is just to continue adding to the portfolio and pick up bigger properties. So to give you a summary right now, I own about 20 something units. Most of that's in Arizona. And then I have a JV deal that I partnered with a friend in Connecticut. He has a portfolio out there. And so we partnered on that. My goal there is just to build another cash flowing portfolio with him where he's the active manager. So I basically just put up half the money. He does all the work, manages it. He's got the management, all that stuff. Boom, hands off. So currently this year, I'm just constantly dropping smaller properties into my portfolio, fourplexes and whatnot, 6 units, whatever it is. And then now I'm looking for bigger stuff outside of Arizona that's 100 plus units. So being able to connect with the right brokers to get off market deals and connect with the right property managers. And, now I can basically take a property anywhere and buy it, So it just comes down to the deal. So because my business on a day-to-day basis is so passive, I've taken the last year and really just studied real estate. The last 6 months has been specifically like syndication and fund structures. Like, okay, am I giving my investors access to a portal? Where's that portal? How does it look? How am I distributing capital? Where are they getting their K-1 tax form from? Who's my attorney? What's the cost to set this up legally? How do I raise money? What can I say publicly? What can I not say publicly? Like there's 1,000 specific things you have to learn. And that's what I've spent the last 6 months doing. So now it's just analyzing the deal flow that's coming my way and continuing to increase that and buying a deal. So like there's a 48 unit that I have a call on in 30 minutes that I'm talking to the asset manager, possibly going to buy that. We'll see. Just looking at different properties. So now I'm going to be taking an investor stake on the LP side and then raising the rest of the funds. So that's the plan. Scale pretty quick. And as of right now, only multifamily residential. That's it.
As far as I mean, that's an awesome plan. You have, again, really well structured just by the way you're saying things, right? I'm curious as far as this, because you said you're going to take on the LP side, right? Can you touch on that for people that don't understand what we're talking about here? Because we're kind of getting high level, and a lot of our listeners are beginners and people who are trying to get into this world. Touch on that a little bit about what the LP side of things are and why you're taking an investor side on the LP side of things rather than being a GP.
Yeah. So you got your GP side, your general partners, and your LP, which are your limited partners. The LPs are typically, they're just the investors. They're the people that are bringing the money to the table. They're not involved in the deal. They don't do any day-to-day. They're just giving you money, and eventually they're going to get a check, like whether it's a monthly distribution, a quarterly, or, at the end of the flip or whatever the project is, right? They're limited in what they can do. They're a partner on the LLC that owns that asset. And so it makes it In my opinion, it's smarter to be on your LP side as well. Number one, if you have the capital. Number two, if you believe in the deal. And it also shows a lot of faith for the investors. So like I want a bigger piece of my deals because I want to make more money. It's pretty simple, right? But I also want to show my investors that I have skin in the game, because usually on the GP side, you usually don't, right? You're getting paid an acquisition fee, 1%, 2%, whatever it is. But usually they don't invest any money in the deal. So there's a lot of people that have bought hundreds of millions or billions of dollars of real estate without using their own money. My plan is to still have a small piece of the investor side, as long as I have the money, I guess, to do it, so that I can be a part of that as well. And I just think it's, number one, it makes raising the capital easier, because if I take a 10% chunk, which is the target on every deal, well, that limits 10% of what I have to raise. And if I need to give that up, or there's an investor who really wants it, cool, I'll give them my piece, or figure out a way to do it. But to me, it's just something that makes more sense. It's something I want to do. And I think it shows a lot more confidence, and I wanted to do more. I don't know if you remembered it at the house. Tim limited me to 10%. He said, you're not allowed to put in more than 10%. Because my plan was like, put in a big chunk, get 3 of my friends, done. Right. He said, no, you take a small chunk and get as many other people as you can to build your investor network. So that's my plan now, is just connecting with more people who are accredited investors who would want to be on the LP side and just cut a check. And by the way, I'm taking LP stakes as well. So this year I'm looking to fund 2 deals. I did that partnership where I'm passive. I'm probably going to go in on the island with Tim. I've been talking to Fatty about that on the legal side, and then looking for one other multifamily deal too, just to see how people operate. So it gives me the bird's eye view of like how people structure their syndications, So I want to experience everything. Like I want to see how people do it in this industry. It's just like recently I sold a duplex that I really didn't want to sell, but I've never sold a property and I've never done a 1031 exchange. So what's the best way to learn that? Do it. That's kind of what I'm doing on the LP side.
What makes a good deal for you, Hayden? Like the numbers, but what else are you looking at? Like kind of break down what you're looking at when you're looking at these deals.
For sure. There's 2 main things. Well, I guess 3 main things that people go for. You got your cash flow, you got your equity appreciation, and I guess there's a lot of people that just focus on the tax benefits, especially in my market in Arizona. They don't care about making money or like having their money increase. Like for them, it's just the tax benefits against their active income. So I guess that's one approach. For me, I need to be able to hit 10% cash on cash, but I want my equity to grow huge. Like I don't want to go to the Midwest and get 21% on some really cool deal or a package of houses that's never going to appreciate, or very slowly. So for me right now, just logistically speaking, since I don't need the money to put food on the table, and that's not to sound arrogant or whatever, it's just I don't take money out of my real estate company. Because of that, I'd rather buy a property that still has solid cash flow. And by the way, that 10% doesn't need to be on acquisition. I can build into that through renovations and stabilizing the property, but then also being able to usually double the equity. So that's what I've been doing on every single deal. It's happened on every single one. And now I'm just looking to do it on a bigger scale for investors who want to do that too. So, it's easier to build the net worth and then transfer that, if you want to take a break, into cash flow than it is the other way around. So build all the equity first, roll that into more deals and have more stuff under your control. And if one day you say you're done, then you could flip that all around and go buy something that cash flows like crazy and just walk away.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because for me, for a long time, it was cash flow. Now, I just talked to a buddy of mine. He's like, hey, I got a 15 unit. And he asked me, he's like, what's most important for you? Depreciation, appreciation, or cash flow? I said, cash flow is no longer important to me, but I care about the other 2 very, very much, especially depreciation right now, because I need the tax benefits badly, right? That's one of the, I don't know if you know, Hayden, but that's one of the biggest downsides to short-term rentals, is it makes very high taxable income.
Yeah.
There's nothing to depreciate against. So therefore you end up giving Uncle Sam a big ass chunk of change. And it's like, dude, so you need to buy something at that point. So listen, we're getting to the top of the hour here. I wish we could have kept going. We should have gone into the real estate side of things a little bit. Maybe we'll bring you on for another segment later on real estate, because, you have it broken down very well. And I want our listeners to kind of understand where we're going with this, because we're kind of on the same page here. So at the end of the show, we always have 2 questions that we ask everybody, being that this is the big break show. I'd like to know, what was your big break at some point, either in life that flipped a switch from little Hayden to big Hayden to regular e-commerce Hayden to, I don't know, commercial family Hayden? Like, which one was it? Like, what was your big break?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big ones was moving out of the home I grew up in. I think that's a huge step for anybody, and just being fully independent. And I mean, I don't know if I told you about this, but when I moved to California, everything that I owned got stolen by the friend that I was staying with. Like I had nothing, all my clothes, everything was gone except the clothes I was wearing, my laptop, and my car. So I'm 17, can't get a hotel. Like it put me in a spot. So I realized people are not nice, and like anything can happen. And so that independence was huge for me. And I think it really helped me in my personal growth as well as business. I saw a tremendous amount of growth over the next 2 years. And then for me, transitioning out of like that short term, I need cash now, which everybody's in at some point. You have to do that. Once you do that for a period of time, usually in my head, it's about 2 years, then you can start taking longer term steps. And that's when like everything changed for me. And I stopped having so much fear because I operated out of fear. I need to make X amount this month. Like there's no other way. Like it has to be this. And so after I was able to take a step back from that, I could see a little bit longer term. And that led me into the real estate and like just what I want to do and like questioning bigger things. So that was a huge break for me for sure is just get into that longer step. Like, okay, instead of what does the next 3 months look like? What does the next 5 years or 10 years? I'm trying to plan for that 1 to 10 year window. So
Isn't it crazy how those hardships create the most growth? Like it took all your shit being stolen and then you're just like something flipped in your mind. Like every time we ask that question, somebody always brings up a hardship that happened in their life. And then it's like, that's that one turning point. You know what I mean? It's crazy how that works. So that's awesome, Hayden. So right now, one of the other segments of our show is, everybody listening to this show right now, what's something they can, that we talked about here that they can literally go after listening to this and apply it to their everyday life. Like what's something that somebody could do today, whether it's getting started in e-commerce, real estate, mindset, like give us an example of, this show today.
Yeah, an actionable step that they can take.
Yeah, I would say if it's learning e-commerce, start learning the ad strategies. Most of that you can find on YouTube when you're actually ready to get started and spend money on advertising. Go through a course. I'm sure there's courses for 20 grand in the industry, but you don't have to go through that. There's a lot of good information for just a couple $100. It's like very accessible. But I'm all about consistency and taking the same steps daily. So if you're trying to get into real estate, make 5 phone calls every day. But whatever number you pick or whatever thing you pick, you have to do it every single day. It's not really about the amount. It's about that consistency compounding over time. So, like you see it all the time with people losing weight. Someone who's really large, it's like, oh, I'm never eating junk food again, 0 sugar. I'm going to the gym 3 times a day. It's like, dude, that's going to work for a week. It's not sustainable. Like build something that's sustainable long-term. And so it might not feel like a lot of progress right in the beginning, but like just slow it down, do it over a long period of time.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That was one of the biggest things that pushed me to do that, Jesse, was, and Hayden, when I first started setting my goals every year, it used to be like, oh, I'm going to work out every single day this year. And it's like, dude, you're not going to do that. So I changed it to, okay, I'm going to work out at least 3 or 4 times a week, minimum 3 times, 4 times consistently. And then it changed, right? I used to drink a ton. So now it's like, okay, I'm only going to drink maybe once or twice a month. Right. And things like that is what really, when you set an actual number or a step where it can get you to like a routine or an actual kind of a measurement, I guess we can call it, right? Like a measurement to where you want to get to. For example, one of my things is analyze 10 multifamily deals a day now. That's very doable. Whether it's deals that are on LoopNet or some I get through emails, it doesn't matter if it works or not. It's just getting familiar with analyzing it. And I don't care. I won't do anything until I do those 10, no matter what. And as you start going, you start growing, and then you start realizing, okay, this is very doable for me, right? This is starting. But don't set unreasonable expectations for yourself that you're going to fail at, right? Like when I first started, it was, I'm going to wake up every single day at 5 a.m. and hit the gym. And it was like, yeah, that worked out for the first month. And then I was like, no, thanks. I hate waking up early. Realize what you're good at and apply it and make it work for yourself. So yeah, man.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. Well, I was going to say, Rafa, we're all used to instant gratification, like especially now, even like a younger generation, like we need to have things done today. Like we want to get food, boom, ordered, boom. And like, you can't have that approach. You have to think about things methodical. You have to put things in incremental value with your personal or business life. It has to come in little sections as you go. And I think that once you start shifting your mindset to that, and you start realizing you're not going to go work out today and have a 6-pack of abs today after you're done working out, it takes time. You got to do those little incremental things every day. Plus that builds confidence, and then it helps you kind of move forward in whatever it is you're doing. So, but yeah, if you guys, Hayden, where can we find you, man? Like, I know you got a big ass YouTube following. So tell us about where you're at on the gram, where you're at on the tube, all those other places where people can find you and ask you about starting a business.
Yeah, real estate and finance and e-commerce is kind of my jam. So most of that is talked about on my YouTube channel. It's just Hayden Bowles, my name. And over on Instagram, it's Real Hayden. So you can also find that linked in my YouTube. My other Instagram got hacked, so that's a new smaller one. But Yeah. And then I also do some TikToks. That's Bowles Hayden. So just flip flop the name. You can find me anywhere just by searching my name. But yeah, those are the platforms I'm on. I'm not really a Facebook guy, not really a Snapchat guy. So best place to ask a question is Instagram. I try to be as active as I can, even on those entry level questions. I just like to give a reference or drop a link to a video or something. So I try.
Got you.
Appreciate that, man. Hey, it's funny because when we first met, you're like, yeah, hey, we should do a video. I'm like, yeah, you should come on my podcast, because I didn't know that you had a YouTube channel, right? It was the first time I'd met you, and I don't really watch YouTube. And I was like, you should come on my podcast. And then you're like, yeah, you should come on my YouTube channel. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I realized how big your YouTube channel is. And I was like, dude, yeah, let's talk on your YouTube channel. It's funny how you put those things into perspective, right? Because our podcast is new. We have what, Jesse, 26 episodes or something like that. So, but anyway, thanks for coming on, man. Really, really appreciate it. This was an awesome conversation. We got to get you back on here in the future to talk about a little bit more real estate stuff.
Would love to. We got to do it in person when I'm in Southern California again, and we'll do a video for my main channel there. I'll bring the cameras and stuff, and we'll get it going.
Yeah,
definitely, man.
For sure, dude. Yeah, whenever you're down here, you already know. Give me a call.
Let's do it. You and Forrest, man. Go grab some food.
Hell yeah.
Well, there it is, folks. Hayden is here crushing it in the real estate department. He's crushing it in e-commerce. Dude started when he was 13. I mean, man, you have an incredible story. So please follow him. And you guys, please like and subscribe to this page. Or if you're listening, give us a thumbs up on there. Give us a, Rafa, a rating. Even if it's a 1, that helps us with the algorithm to get people to notice us. But Hayden, man, we appreciate you being here. All the listeners now, or people watching YouTube, please follow this guy. He's got some pretty cool shit going on. And I'm excited to see where you go, man. And only at 22 years old. Imagine 5 more years, 10 years from now, Hayden's going to be killing it. I mean, you already are.
Appreciate you guys. Very kind. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.